Being in a lesbian relationship is something powerful. It's beautiful, it's validating, and often, it's healing. But let's be real, it's also complicated in ways that many people don't talk about openly. If you're in a lesbian relationship, or even just exploring one, chances are you've already realized this isn't something the world prepares you for. There's no handbook passed around in school. There are barely any healthy role models in mainstream media. And for most of us, we learned what we know through trial, error, and quiet Googling in the middle of the night. So let's pause and do something different. Let's talk about what really matters in a lesbian relationship beyond just the feel-good moments or the honeymoon phase. Because while love is love, the dynamics of loving another woman come with their own unique layers: emotional, psychological, cultural, and even internal. You might be navigating emotional intensity, boundaries that feel blurry, or maybe even figuring out how your own identity is evolving inside the relationship. These are not just side effects, they're part of the journey. There's a myth that queer relationships are automatically more understanding, more communicative, more in touch. And while it's true that many lesbian couples share emotional depth and empathy that feels unmatched, that doesn't mean everything flows perfectly. In fact, sometimes, that emotional closeness can create challenges of its own, like conflict avoidance, overmerging, or confusing passion with compatibility. Have you ever found yourself feeling emotionally exhausted from constantly managing each other's feelings? Or unsure where your needs end and hers begin? That doesn't mean your relationship is broken, it means you're human. And queer relationships, just like any other, require tools, reflection, and growth. The truth is, being in a lesbian relationship doesn't mean you're automatically immune to misunderstandings, jealousy, emotional burnout, or misaligned expectations. But it does mean you have a powerful opportunity to build something intentional. Something that's not based on default scripts or outdated roles, but based on mutual respect, emotional safety, and conscious love. In this video, we're not here to romanticize or dramatize. We're here to get real about the highs, the lows, and everything in between. Because you deserve a relationship that feels whole, honest, and affirming, not just in public, but behind closed doors too. So if you're in a lesbian relationship or thinking about being in one, don't skip this. These conversations matter. Your relationship deserves space, attention, and truth. Emotional intensity isn't always emotional clarity. One of the most powerful and sometimes most confusing aspects of being in a lesbian relationship is the emotional intensity that often comes with it. When two people who have shared experiences, struggles, and identities come together, the feelings can be incredibly strong, raw, and real. That intensity can create moments of breathtaking connection where you feel truly seen and understood on a level you might never have experienced before. And that's a beautiful thing. But here's the important truth that doesn't get talked about enough. Emotional intensity doesn't always mean emotional clarity. Just because you're feeling things deeply doesn't mean everything is clear or healthy. In fact, sometimes those very strong emotions can actually cloud your ability to see what's really going on both in yourself and in your relationship. It's easy to get swept up in the rush of passion, excitement, or even conflict and mistake that roller coaster for true intimacy. When emotions run high, boundaries often get fuzzy. You might find yourself overmerging with your partner's feelings, absorbing their anxieties and pains as if they were your own, or losing track of where your emotions end and theirs begin. This can lead to burnout, resentment, or confusion, even when both people genuinely care about each other. Sometimes emotional intensity looks like constant highs and lows, moments of incredible closeness followed by distance or tension. It might feel like an emotional storm where the waves are so powerful that you forget to breathe. You may feel like you're doing all the emotional labor or constantly trying to soothe each other without a break. And in queer relationships, where external pressures and past traumas might already weigh heavy, this emotional intensity can become overwhelming if it's not balanced with self-care and boundaries. So, what does emotional clarity look like, and how do you get there? It starts with slowing down. It means checking in with yourself regularly. How am I really feeling? What do I need? What parts of this emotion are mine, and what parts belong to my partner? Emotional clarity involves recognizing your own boundaries and respecting your partner's. It means learning to communicate not just the big feelings, but also the small, quiet ones, because those small moments often hold the key to true connection. Emotional clarity also requires the courage to sit with discomfort. It's tempting to want to fix everything right away, or to avoid tough conversations for fear of hurting each other. But true intimacy grows in the space where both people feel safe enough to be honest, even when the truth is hard to hear. It's about moving beyond just feeling deeply to actually understanding and processing those feelings together. Remember, emotional intensity is a gift. It shows that you care deeply. But it's not a substitute for clarity. When you learn to balance passion with mindfulness, boundaries are just as important as love. In many lesbian relationships, there's this beautiful assumption that because two people love and understand each other deeply, boundaries will naturally fall into place. But the truth is, love alone doesn't automatically create healthy boundaries, and without them, even the strongest relationships can struggle. Boundaries aren't about putting up walls or shutting your partner out. They're about creating a safe space where both of you can be your full, authentic selves without losing your individuality. Especially in lesbian relationships, where emotional intimacy can feel incredibly close and merging, boundaries help keep that connection balanced and sustainable. It's common to want to be everything for your partner, their confidant, their caretaker, their emotional anchor. And while that care is vital, it can sometimes lead to emotional exhaustion or resentment if your own needs aren't respected or if boundaries get blurry. Saying no or asking for space doesn't mean you love less. It means you're choosing to honor yourself, which in turn honors your relationship. Boundaries help prevent the dangerous trap of losing yourself completely in someone else's world. Healthy boundaries might look like recognizing when you need time alone to recharge, or communicating openly about what you're comfortable sharing emotionally and physically. It might mean being honest about your limits around social situations, family interactions, or even how you express affection in public. Every couple's boundaries will look different because every relationship is unique, and that's the beauty of it. The key is that those boundaries come from a place of mutual respect and understanding, not fear or control. Another important piece is that boundaries aren't set once and forgotten. They shift and evolve as your relationship grows, and so does the way you communicate them. Checking in regularly with your partner about how you both feel, what's working, and what's not, creates a dynamic space where love and boundaries coexist peacefully. This ongoing dialogue is essential because it helps you both feel safe, heard, and valued. Without clear boundaries, love can unintentionally turn into codependence, where one person's happiness depends entirely on the other's approval or emotional state. That's not the kind of love that helps people grow. It's the kind that limits growth and breeds insecurity. Boundaries give each partner the freedom to be independent while still being deeply connected. They allow you to support each other without losing yourself in the process. In the end, boundaries are an act of love, not distance. They're the foundation that helps your relationship thrive by ensuring that both of you feel respected, understood, and free to be who you truly are. If you're in a lesbian relationship, prioritizing boundaries is one of the best things you can do for yourself, for your partner, and for the health of your love. Communication isn't just talking, it's listening and unlearning. When we hear the word communication, most of us immediately think about talking, expressing our feelings, sharing our thoughts, explaining our needs. And yes, communication is about speaking up. But in lesbian relationships, communication is so much deeper and more complex than just words. It's about listening, not just hearing, but truly listening to your partner's emotions, fears, and desires, even when they don't say them out loud. It's about creating a space where both of you can be vulnerable without fear of judgment or dismissal. What's tricky, though, is that good communication isn't something that always comes naturally. Many of us carry old patterns or scripts from past relationships, family dynamics, or society's expectations that can actually hold us back. For example, you might have learned to avoid conflict to keep the peace, or to bottle up your feelings so as not to overwhelm others. Sometimes, those habits sneak into your lesbian relationship without you realizing it, and suddenly, open communication feels impossible. This is where the real work begins, unlearning those old patterns. It means recognizing when you're shutting down, getting defensive, or talking over your partner, not because you don't care, but because those are habits that once protected you in less safe environments. In lesbian relationships, where emotional connection often runs deep, unlearning unhealthy communication patterns becomes essential to building a relationship where both partners feel truly heard and valued. Listening with intention means putting aside your own agenda or desire to fix things and instead being present with your partner's experience. It means asking questions like, "Can you tell me more about how you're feeling?" or "What do you need from me right now?" instead of jumping in with solutions or assumptions. This kind of empathetic listening creates a powerful foundation where vulnerability is met with kindness, not judgment. Another important part of communication is recognizing that not every conversation has to be long or perfectly articulated. Sometimes, the most meaningful communication happens in small moments, a touch, a sigh, a quiet presence. Learning to read and respond to these nonverbal cues deepens your connection and makes your partner feel understood on a whole different level. Finally, communication in a lesbian relationship is a continuous journey. There will be misunderstandings, frustrations, and moments when you feel unheard or disconnected. But the willingness to keep trying, to show up, listen, and be honest, makes all the difference. It's about progress, not perfection. When you truly embrace communication as a dance of listening and unlearning, your relationship transforms. It becomes a safe space where both of you can grow, heal, and love authentically, without fear or pretense. You don't have to fit the perfect queer couple image. One of the biggest pressures in lesbian relationships, and really, in the whole LGBTQ+ community, is the expectation to be that perfect queer couple. You know the one. Always loving, always progressive, endlessly supportive, with communication on point and zero drama. Social media especially can make it seem like everyone else's relationship is flawless, emotionally evolved, and glowing with rainbow-hued perfection. But here's the truth, real relationships are messy. And that's okay. Trying to fit into that perfect mold can make you feel like you have to hide your struggles, pretend everything's fine, or compare your relationship to an impossible standard. It can make conflict feel like failure and make you doubt your love when you experience challenges. But every relationship has ups and downs, whether you're lesbian, straight, or anywhere in between. What matters isn't how perfect things look on the outside. It's how authentically you're able to show up for each other, even when it's hard. Lesbian relationships, like all relationships, come with their own unique challenges. Sometimes, that might mean dealing with external pressures, like discrimination, misunderstanding from family or friends, or feeling invisible in a world that doesn't always recognize your love. Other times, the challenges are internal, navigating identity, managing emotional intensity, or balancing individual needs with shared goals. None of this makes your relationship less valid or less worthy. In fact, facing these realities together can be a source of incredible strength. Authenticity is your superpower here. When you stop trying to perform or live up to some ideal image, you open the door to real growth. You create space for honest conversations about what you both want, need, and feel. You let go of shame around conflict or imperfection and embrace the fact that love is a journey, full of learning, mistakes, forgiveness, and growth. And remember, your relationship doesn't have to look like anyone else's. It doesn't have to check off every box society or even the queer community might expect. What matters is that it feels right for you and your partner. Whether that means setting boundaries differently, expressing love in unique ways, or simply taking your time to build trust and connection, your relationship deserves to be defined by you too. So if you've been feeling the pressure to be perfect, take a deep breath and let that go. Celebrate the realness of your love, the good days, the tough days, and everything in between. Because your relationship is valid, valuable, and beautiful exactly as it is. And that honesty? That's what makes it truly powerful.